It was either that or Caroline doing a quick cooee. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the official launch of Caroline Council's latest publication, Divorce the Court. My name is Adam Orty, and I am the Chief Executive of the Law Institute of Victoria. And on behalf of the Law Institute of Victoria, I'd like to formally acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout our state. I recognise their continuing connection to lands, waters and communities, and I pay my respects to elders past, present, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people here today. I would specifically like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional owners from where we are meeting this afternoon. It is a pleasure to be able to host the launch of Caroline's book at the LIV. To any members in attendance, I have seen some of them today, welcome. And for those of you who it is your first visit to the LIV, a warm welcome also. A bit about the LIV. The LIV represents more than 20,200 lawyers and people working in the law in Victoria, across the state, interstate and also overseas. Our members offer their commitment, diversity and expertise to help shape the laws of Victoria and to ensure justice for all. As the peak body for the Victorian legal profession, the LIV initiates programs to support the needs of the changing profession, promotes an active reform advocacy agenda, responds publicly to issues affecting the community, to provide expert services and resources. I know you're here to hear about Caroline's book launch, so you might be asking, why am I talking about the LIV? But as my past presidents here would always like me to give a plug. But one of the reasons I'm talking about the LIV is Caroline was one of our past presidents in 2011. And at that time, she was only the 5th female to hold that role in over a century and a half.
I was a child.
President Payton, I'm not sure you should be talking about age differentials at the moment, but... and of course, last year, Caroline celebrated over 40 years as a member of the legal profession and part of the LIV family. So it's only fitting that Caroline has come home to launch her book at the LIV with her team at Wilkinson Publishing. It also helps that we at the LIV have the only dedicated legal bookshop in the country, just outside here. So, you know, we'll also be able to help sell Caroline's book after tonight. But now it is my great pleasure to introduce Nicole Chavasky, journalist, media presenter and host of the new podcast Truth, Lies and Media. Nicole has long worked with the LIV in her various roles throughout her illustrious career. Nicole is here to welcome those speaking this evening. Please now make Nicole welcome.
Lovely to be here. Lovely to see you all. It's an honour to be involved in the launch of Caroline's book, Divorce the Court, A Better Life Together Apart. It's a must-get book, it says in the foreword. A must-get book. And Diana Bryant wrote that, so you must get it. It's also a pleasure to introduce her publisher, Michael Wilkinson, the former journalist and author. And he wrote, of course, the top-selling Phar Lap story, which was made into a movie, which I'm sure you've all seen. Yes. Good. For 30 years, he's been the publisher of books, magazines, audio and video content in Australia and overseas, and one of Australia's most successful independent publishers. But how did he come to publish Divorce the Court? He wouldn't tell me. I asked him for a cute story about this. I wanted a backstory, and he would not go there. However, he is like a priest, correct. However, Caroline's told me a few bits and pieces. Her fellow podcaster, Darren Mort, who I met earlier, hello Darren, barrister, author and filmmaker, was approached by Michael, who said to him, "I'm sure there's a book in you." And there was. So he wrote a book based on a Hague Convention case about a child kidnapped by her mother. Caroline went to the launch of Darren's book and was introduced to Michael, and the rest is history. Please welcome publisher Michael Wilkinson.
Yeah, well, all that's absolutely true. And yeah, it really did it happened exactly that way in terms of discovering, making great friends with Caroline and Darren, and truly they've both got extraordinary talent. And with Caroline's book, of course, the family, the individual, the fear of courts, it's all happening today out there, and Caroline is right amongst it. So yes, it's a must-get book, because first of all it's easy to read, and often if it's a legal book, we all know, you've studied law, many of the people in this room, it's so difficult to plough through the cases. So what Caroline has written, it's a riveting read. The people who are seeing it, it's at the London Book Fair this week, and there's distributors who are taking the book. And the exciting thing with books, of course, is that these days we can be reading them on electronic devices, but they still live in print form too. The print form, unlike newspapers where I've done a lot of work, magazines, dying, the print book is actually revived. People like their print book as well as having it on their device. So yeah, this is a celebration tonight. It truly is. In 30 years of doing books, Darren and Caroline are exceptional in terms of writing books that really deliver real, relevant information and packaging it up, in a story that I guarantee you won't put either of the books down, either Song or Divorce to Court. So congratulations, thank you for the opportunity to publish, each of you, and the books will live on. We look forward to reprints.
Thank you so much, Michael. Well, it's my pleasure now to introduce the Honourable Diana Bryant, AOQC. Diana Bryant, of course, is the former Chief Justice of the Family Court of Australia. She's had a number of roles since her retirement in 2017, and her roles currently include Chair of the World Congress on Family Law and Children's Rights, where she'll be heading to the International Conference in Cambridge in July. She's also patron of the Asian Australian Lawyers Association, President of the Graduate Union of Melbourne University, plus other sundry roles that prevent her from being completely retired. In the book's foreword, Diana Bryant writes that the book is not about the law, it's about the human condition. Beautifully written too, may I say. It is for, quote, couples trying to negotiate a separation in a way that is least destructive to them and their children. As family lawyers, she writes, we know this is not easy, and the book does not sugarcoat the path. It does, however, provide a detailed blueprint for a way forward from every imaginable scenario. It's an honour to introduce the Honourable Diana Bryant, AOQC.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I don't need to say too much about the book then, because I've written the foreword, so it's just read the foreword. I've known Carolyn a very long time. Professionally, she has an outstanding CV. But apart from her professional achievements, she's a very good family lawyer and a lot of fun, as you would all know, which probably goes together quite well. In this book, she's imparting all of her accumulated wisdom and experience to the reader. Being a very good family lawyer involves much more than knowing the law, as she sets out. You need experience, wisdom, and courage. Because for clients, a desire for justice is strong, but can lead to disaster. And the family lawyers in the room all know about clients whose cause is just and whose cause is good, but it's not going to work out well for them. And being able to guide people like that requires, I think, wisdom, experience, and courage. So all this is in a book, which when read should help countless litigants, and lawyers too. I willingly consented to write the foreword because we share the same ethos. As it transpires, I'm endeavouring to write a memoir about my mother, a pioneering woman lawyer. So I was very impressed with Caroline's progress, which is much better than mine, I should say. To have actually finished a book, that's amazing and not easy. So this is a book all separating couples should read, and lots of young lawyers as well, because they will gain an enormous amount of wisdom from it. So congratulations, Caroline. It's a great book.
Thank you so much. Now, I'd like to introduce you to the star of the show, the author of this remarkable book. This wonderful lady, I met Caroline Counsell when she appeared semi-regularly on my radio show, and I was always struck by her rock-solid desire to make the family law process less of a nightmare for the people who sometimes were just sleepwalking straight into it. And if at all, she would keep them out of court altogether. She acts only in the interests of those who are vulnerable and their children, with advice that can be a godsend amongst this sort of blur of pain and separation. Those who come to her from environments that are often volatile and fraught, she manages with grace and intellect and insight and compassion. And amazingly, she could also wrangle grumpy talkback callers, like she'd just done it all her life. She's the perfect person to write such an important book. She is the past president of the Law Institute of Victoria. She's the current chair of the Specialisation Board of the LIV. She's accredited family law specialist, family dispute resolution practitioner, trained mediator and arbitrator, and author of Divorce the Court, A Better Life Together, Apart. Caroline.
That's so kind. Thank you all very much for being here. It's a hot day. Hopefully it's going to be a little cooler by the time we get out of here. It might take a village to raise a child, but it takes a platoon to publish a book. To say I'm grateful to the following people is an understatement. I owe them a debt of gratitude that I don't think I can possibly repay. Thanks to Adam Orty for always being in my corner and welcoming us here today. Thanks to Nicole, who let me corner her at my local supermarket and who not only agreed to host but has gone above and beyond with contacts and ideas for tonight's launch. Thank you, Nicole. I'm always grateful for the leadership, friendship, support that Diana Bryant has shown me over the years. You've been a big supporter of alternate dispute resolution as well. I can't thank you enough for reading my earlier, somewhat clumsy draft and writing the foreword to this more polished effort. Thanks to Michael Wilkinson and the crew at Wilkinson Publishing, Jane Wilkinson, who's here tonight as well, Sue Ann, Cassie, and Michael Vandenberg, who put visuals to my vision. Michael Wilkinson had faith in me when I had little in myself, and he brought parts of Divorce the Court to life, and the book is better for it, I think. Your team's patience, whilst this novice grappled with your world, reminded me of, in fact, what our clients go through when they enter as. It's a brave new world, confusing, lonely and scary for them. It's very familiar territory for us, but you made it very easy for me. And thank you to Darren Mort, barrister, author, filmmaker, actor, the list goes on, friend, I think most importantly, and my fellow podcaster of Done and Dusted. Without you, Wilkinson Publishing would have not materialised. I want to acknowledge the wonderful women, now friends, whom I met back in 2016. You've always had my back. You spurred me on to believe I can do whatever I put my mind to. I started writing this book back then in 2016, and then it sat idle. And I'm really glad I had that time to consider. The book had a slight negative element to it, and with time, and when I was forced by Wilkinson Publishing to proofread it 6 times, some of that negativity fell by the wayside, and again, I think it's a better book for that. My team, most of whom are here today, you teach me as much as I hope I teach you. Thanks for going on this journey with me. The book and this launch would not have been possible without your help. I want to thank my alumni. Some of you are here tonight. I was surprised when one of you told me that you'd coined a phrase at court, and it's called Carolinisms. This book contains many such isms which will no doubt sound very familiar to you. I want to thank members of the profession who, not just the legal profession, but the professions who work with separating families. The title Divorce the Court is in fact ironic because despite our work, sometimes court cannot be avoided. What we do know is that the quickest path to settlement is best, but not always possible. This book is as much about the skills of us family lawyers as it is about my own insights. It's a testament to the work that we do day in, day out. It's hard work, but it's also rewarding. Our reward is when we do our best work and see those watershed moments in our clients' lives. To my husband David, who's been my inspiration in my personal and professional life, I thank you. Unfortunately, David had a car accident last night and can't be here. He's okay. He drove down a road that he tells me constantly I'm not allowed to drive down after dark or before dawn. But no, he went where I'm not allowed to go. The car came off worse than the roo, I suspect, but I'm not sure if the roo has lived to tell the tale. My family, some of whom are here tonight, our parents' divorce was not the best introduction to the work I am so passionate about. But we survived it, albeit with our scars. And lastly, to each child who has ever lain awake in terror in their family home, where they are supposed to feel safe, listening to their parents' lives shatter and break. To each parent who has had to be parented by one of their children, a parent who is a damaged soul, and a child who has lost their childhood to that endeavour. To each child who tiptoes on family violence eggshells, and to each child who morphs into a creature of one parent's revenge. This book's ambition is to find better ways to end the war and help families find a better life together, apart. The following is an excerpt from the book, and my hope is one day that we will never have to give the following advice to any parent in the future. It's from the chapter entitled Bonfire on the Beach. I was asked for a second opinion about a set of consent orders which meant that the parent was unable to have a relationship with her daughter. The client wanted to explore prospects. She was unhappy with the result. She wanted to set those orders aside. It was a clear-cut case where the father had manipulated the child and the child was living with him and had nothing whatsoever to do with her mother. In this case, despite a counsellor being appointed by the court to make post-judgment recommendations and work with the child, the counsellor was frustrated in their role due to the degree of damage and control over the child exerted by the other parent. I told my client, yes, indeed, you could go back to court. You could seek different orders to those that were made. However, those orders were being frustrated and became unworkable due to the behaviour of the other parent. There was an opportunity for enforcement of those orders, and that was a legal avenue open to the client. Instead of giving me the money to take the matter back to court, in which there would be no palpable change in this family's outcome, I advised my client instead to start writing the world's longest love letter from a parent to a child. I told my client to see the world through their child's eyes and to imagine that their child, who was in the grip of the other parent, was akin to a child being caught in a rip, snatching the child out to sea and not letting go. It was a case of waiting for the rip to start to let go and for the child to want to start swimming to shore. What my client had to build, in the meanwhile, was a huge bonfire on the beach, a shining beacon of love glowing in the dark of her daughter's life. My client had to hope that the child, at some cruelly ill-defined date in the future, would scan the shores and see the bonfire there. My client would be there, with outstretched hands and an open and full heart of love. For this is what we are all meant to be in our essence, love. And yet how poorly we let that guide us in our behaviours when we fight each other as parents. And sometimes there is no Pollyanna Avenue which would enable you to let your guard down and love unconditionally because of your former partner and their stance against you, despite you being the child's other parent. Sometimes you need to call upon the full weight of the law to explore every available avenue to rescue a child. And sometimes you need to walk away and wait. Thank you so much.
That was. Thank you so much, Caroline. That was just so compelling, you know, and the image of the bonfire on the beach being the parent waiting for the child to come back. You could see it, you know, the word picture that you paint is just extraordinary. It's an extraordinary book. Thank you so much for writing it. That concludes the formal part of these proceedings. I'm instructed to ask you to buy books out there, as many as you like, and enjoy having a drink with us and a chat. And it's been a pleasure to see you all here this evening. Thank you.